All right, Josh and Jacob here, and we are at, 8,500 feet climbing for 10,000 feet.
You're exiting my airspace. Your radar service is terminated. Squawk VFR. For further flight following, contact Washington Center 132.02.
We're right over Norfolk, Virginia.
It's actually Norfolk.
Norfolk.
Is it really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't name it. And we're doing an epic monster cross-country from Laconia, New Hampshire to Lakeland, Florida.
For sun and fun.
Yes.
2K18.
We could use the sun and we could use the fun.
Right now it's sunnier than we've seen for a while. And a little warmer. But we were just kind of skimming the top of this layer that you guys will be able to see out the front.
Homing approach 126.4.
26.4. That was 5-1 Victor Tango.
So we asked for a little bit higher.
Whiskey to center maintain 4,000.
It is below freezing. It's about 22 degrees, so we don't want to have to worry about any ice or anything like that. And we're just going to talk a little bit about IFR versus VFR and when we choose to fly one or the other. For the first half of our flight, we chose to fly VFR. And now we're kind of in a different position, and we chose to go IFR. So first of all, do you want to just talk about what that stands for if somebody has no idea?
Yeah, so there are two different sets of rules for flying airplanes, and these rules apply to all aircraft, whether they're private airplanes or big jetliners, you know, like American Airlines and such. And those two rules are VFR and IFR. VFR stands for Visual Flight Rules, and IFR stands for Instrument Flight Rules. So as you can imagine, Visual Flight Rules means that you get to use all of the outside visual references that you can see with your own eyes. Now you're looking outside at this camera, or these cameras here, and you're seeing a bunch of clouds, and you're seeing basically a sea of marshmallows. And you might say, well, are those a reference? Well, I mean, yes and no, but I would say generally no. Especially in this case, no, because we are above the clouds and we are all but unable to see anything on the ground. So we are flying under instrument flight rules. Why don't you talk a little about VFR, Jacob?
Yeah, so VFR, Visual Flight Rules, what it boils down to is you're not allowed to fly into clouds, and there are a lot of details that go along with that, how thick the clouds can be, what the visibility can be, you know, the ceiling above the ground and stuff like that. But generally, the point of it is that you need to be able to see other airplanes and they need to be able to see you. And, you know, there's the obvious reason of not crashing into each other, and then there's some of the secondary reasons of navigating and keeping the plane under control and being able to just fly where you want to go by using the horizon as opposed to using instruments. So when you do file IFR and you fly under instrument flight rules, it's really a whole different set of concerns that you have. Instead of being concerned about looking for traffic and avoiding other airplanes, it's still something that's on your mind, but for the most part, air traffic control is responsible for keeping you away from other planes, which means that under a lot of circumstances, you can focus more on important decisions that need to be made. You can focus more on getting somewhere efficiently, the weather, deviating around stuff. And so we're kind of in that position right now. We don't want to have to worry about a plane popping out of this cloud layer. So we figured we'd go IFR. And it turns out, although when you're IFR, you're kind of at the mercy of the controllers. They could take you a very roundabout way to where you want to go. This time it worked out pretty well. We're going basically directly to the airport where we're going to be landing to get some more fuel. So it does help to be instrument rated even when the weather, you know, up here right now it's blue sky, the weather looks great. You could be VFR up here, but flying under instruments just makes life easier sometimes.
Yeah, and the
non-Papa whiskey traffic at your...
I'll always stop talking when I hear the radio come on, because we never know if the air traffic controllers are talking to us. So it's not that I can't gather my thoughts, it's just that I'm trying to make sure I don't talk over these guys. So anyways, like Jacob started to say, we started this long cross-country trip under visual flight rules, and the reason is because visual flight rules, or VFR, is considered to be a less restricted mode of flight. meaning you get to do kind of what you want. There are guidelines, there are of course rules, and you know there's a whole book this thick of rules that you have to follow. But the rule is basically this. You can fly at any altitude, it's called pilot's discretion. Depending on the direction of flight you're going, it's either even thousands plus 500 or odd thousands plus 500. You can turn left and turn right at your direction, and you know, if you decide, you know what, I want to go and take a look at that lake over there, I want to go and fly along the coastline, you get to do that because it's unrestricted. And the alternative to that is IFR, which is considered restricted flight. You, as Jacob said, are at the mercy of the air traffic controllers. Really, you're at the direction of the air traffic controllers. And so that is,
16,000, airshow 6113.
it's worth talking about what the intended purpose, really the primary and I would say almost the only purpose of air traffic controllers, or their only legal requirement, is to provide separation services. Meaning
for IFR aircraft.
For IFR only aircraft, good call. I don't know if you guys can see up there, but there's a couple of jets, and you know they're separated by many miles. I don't know how many miles, but those jets are being separated by the air traffic controller. The controller said, okay, you guy on the left, you're going to go at whatever, 33,000 feet. The guy on the right, you're going to go at 36,000 feet, and you're going to maintain this heading, and the other guy's going to maintain that heading. He wouldn't have that type of authority over a VFR pilot. So, like Jacob said, we're technically in VFR on top, meaning we're on top of the clouds, but we're under an instrument flight plan. If we canceled IFR right now, we would have no problem until we wanted to go back down and land at the airport. We'd have a real hard time finding what they call a hole through which to descend and get underneath the clouds.
So yeah, I mean, you always are a VFR pilot before you're an IFR pilot. You need to do one before the other, which is good because you rely on the horizon before you start learning about the precise ways of using...
Check Hopewell, airshow 6113.
Before you start learning the precise ways of learning how to use the instruments. And it's just a different type of flying. And so right now we do have a horizon for the most part. So we could both look at it, we could decide if we're straight and level, but we could just as easily be in a cloud layer and have to look at our attitude indicator here, which we'll get a picture of. And that tells us the way the plane is oriented. So in a way, it's a more precise way of flying, but like Josh was saying, there's always that trade-off of you don't know if you're going to have to go 50 miles out of the way because of a flight restriction or because of an emergency or something like that. So,
a couple of weeks ago, we flew from Laconia. The plan was to fly just south of DC to an airport in Virginia, and New York airspace, as in Kennedy, LaGuardia, Newark. That airspace is some of the busiest in the world, and we thought, oh, they'll just let us...
3067 Yankee, contact Washington Center 123.85.
123.85, over to center for 67 Yankee, thanks for your help.
Boom.
Center, Skyline 3067 Yankee, 10,000, IFR.
November 3067 Yankee, Washington, good morning. Or I guess rather the Husky altimeter, the Norfolk altimeter is 3020.
3020, and just to clarify, we are 3067 Yankee, 3067 Yankee.
November 30, I'm showing 3067 Yankee.
Affirmative. I just didn't know if you said 2067 Yankee.
Okay.
So anyways, we thought, oh, they'll just let us punch through they'll let us punch through all that busy airspace. Well, it turns out that they had other plans for us, and they vectored us out to the west. What that means is they said, hey, 67 Yankee, which is the tail number of the airplane, we want you to fly a heading of 270 instead of 180, for instance. They took us 90 degrees off course.
For a
while, very long time.
So long, actually, that it caused a fuel concern, and we had to land at a different airport because we didn't have enough fuel to make it to our intended destination, given this crazy reroute. So Jacob and I made the decision to fly this long cross country as much VFR as we can. So we can make the decision as to where we go, how high we fly. Maybe the winds are more favorable at 5,000 feet or 5,500 feet than they are at 10,000. But we encountered a bit of cloud activity, quite a bit actually. You can see it out the window. And we decided to go IFR. It's that simple. So while we have a second here, I'm just going to do a quick instrument scan. Oil pressure is good, oil temp's good, cylinder head temps are good. EGTs and CHTs are good. Fuel is being managed. We are currently on the right tank with full fuel. We are right on the outside edge of the carb ice-free zone. The batteries are charging. We have volts in the batteries. We're on autopilot. And anything else?
No, everything looks good. We're just set up and cruise. So.
Periodically, we run through the instruments, all the critical instruments to monitor them, scan them over, make sure that everything's good.
Yep.
But we thought this would be a good little video to do in flight. I mean, we've got a lot of airtime to burn, and you know.
It's funny because sometimes flying is like you're doing as much stuff as possible within the shortest amount of time, and then there are hours of just this.
Yeah.
And you can kind of get in trouble because, you know, we're looking at the GPS right now. We're, I don't know, 300 miles from our airport that we want to be at.
Yeah, 290.
And, you know, you could sit here and get kind of lazy, and then all of a sudden stuff starts to happen pretty quickly.
Stop up Washington Center, climb maintain flight 260.
Especially when you're flying IFR, you've got, you really have to pay attention to every radio transmission. That's why you hear us kind of pausing when they start talking on the radio.
Okay, somebody else call?
And that flight that Josh was talking about down to New York and through that area, we actually had to, the hardest part of it, for me at least, was reprogramming the GPS every 20 minutes because we got fix after fix after fix, and while we're flying, we're expected to keep up with the change in the route. And if you can imagine, you know, trying to use your cell phone and your computer and fly an airplane all at the same time, that's kind of like what's going on. And
yeah, it's interesting, and there's a lot of radio work. You have to stay in touch with the controllers. The rule is aviate, navigate, communicate, meaning fly the airplane, keep it straight and level, keep control of the airplane. Navigate, meaning while you're in control of the airplane, bring it to where you want it to go. And once you've gotten yourself to bringing it where you want it to go, you got to make sure you stay in communication with the controllers. But the workload gets very high, and you know, even the most rudimentary tasks can become overwhelming. They call it task saturation.
And that's another reason we like to do a lot of flights together, just because, you know, although maybe it would be more of a challenging flight alone, you can really learn a lot from flying with another person, especially if you both kind of work in a similar way. If you both think the same way and you have the same concern about flying safely and flying well. You know, one person can be focused on the radio, the other person can be focused on flying, and you could both do your own job with a lot more confidence and a lot more precision than you could flying alone. So that's another reason we like to fly together. And
Jacob and I are pretty calibrated to the same level of conservatism when it comes to flying. We generally make the same safety and airman decision-making process is almost identical. I've flown with people who have much less regard for I don't know, margins of error, and I want to leave a nice, safe buffer. I don't need to fly. Neither of us need to fly. Nobody needs to fly. It's at this point recreational. I know Jacob wants it to be a career, and you know, who knows? But at this point, on this date, it's recreational, and no one needs to get hurt, get in trouble, or die over it.
Yeah. A good example is on this flight right now. We had an airport planned south of Norfolk to stop at for fuel, and we did all the fuel calculations. We looked at the charts, we looked at the winds, and we knew it was going to be kind of right on the line of where we were comfortable with. There would be about an hour reserve, which is actually double what you legally need, but for us, that's kind of where we start thinking about having enough fuel. and it turns out the headwinds were a little bit stronger than we expected. We had to fly higher to get out of some weather, and it took a little bit longer than we thought. So we ended up stopping, what, maybe 50 miles early?
Yeah,
almost 60 miles early. And we landed and we had about an hour of fuel left, like right around what we were looking for. So
yeah, it was right on the money, actually. It was good. I mean,
8-4-1-718, 11,000, please. Norfolk altimeter 3017.
so many people like to remark about how dangerous general aviation is.
We have to get down as well, so negative.
And there's no denying that it is, you know, orders of magnitude more dangerous than many things that we do. I mean, going out to the mailbox is somewhat dangerous. Getting out of bed is somewhat dangerous. Driving is, you know, orders of magnitude more dangerous than going to the mailbox. But we do these things every day, and what we do is we manage our risk. We don't completely avoid the risk, otherwise we wouldn't do anything. We wouldn't go to work in the morning. And it turns out that many general aviation incidents and accidents are the result of
1846,
pilot.
Now to maintain flight level 190, and then cross drone at maintain 11,000.
Are the result of pilot error. And it's easy to make mistakes because there's so much going on.
yeah, the way I think of it is there's a lot that you don't have control of up here, like the weather. That's the most obvious one. You don't really have too much control over something mechanical just breaking out of nowhere. Of course, you do a pre-flight, you check the plane out before you go flying, but you really don't have a control over something breaking when it's not really expected to. And
Altimeter, please.
when I think of that, I just think you need to be very, very cognizant of the things that you do have control over, and you need to maximize the safety factor that produces for you.
I don't have that, but I do
So,
have,
like for us, we have control over when we want to go flying, and there have been plenty of times when we've wanted to fly, and
that's all four of you guys are fuel dumping?
oh, sorry, it's kind of pretty busy here, but as recently as this morning, we wanted to leave at 4 a.m. and it was fog right down to the surface, and we had no idea how thick it was, so we literally waited, what, 5.5 hours to take off.
How many of you guys are fuel dumping at the moment? You're all done? You're all done? Finished?
What's going on here?
Roger, thank you. Descend and maintain 11,000.
I think somebody was, sounded like somebody was trying to cancel IFR and she didn't really understand it. But yeah, the whole thing is very rewarding. It's fun to learn this stuff, and it's just cool being a part of like the airspace system.
Yeah, it's really
and being
neat.
such a small plane.
It seems in a way like we're in a different world right now. And when we land, we're going to get out of the plane, we're going to use our legs instead of our hands.
People are going to talk normally. And
yeah, it's really weird. They're not like 1-9er this, 3-5 this. It's just, you know, it's a different language, and there's a lot of different things to digest.
One of my favorite parts of flying, and I know you kind of feel this way, is like the brevity with which you speak, but also how effectively you could communicate, you know? And there's really, you try to limit anything that you don't need to say, and if you do need to say it, you say it, and you get your point across extremely well. And just the whole dynamic between the controllers and the pilots is really cool to see, because it works very, very well.
Proceed direct to the Wallow intersection, which is Whiskey Alpha Lima Lima Oscar, WALLO, and then direct
kind of nice we could make out the ground through some of these holes, huh?
Yeah, it is nice.
Just kind of keeps you like, what would you call this, a broken or scattered or what?
I know, it's
probably broken, right?
It's funny because the vantage point that the viewers are getting from this forward-facing camera, it looks like an overcast.
Yeah.
But as you're looking down on these clouds,
now?
and it's scattered here, and it's probably, it was broken a little earlier.
Yeah. 16?
What would you say the bottoms were? 8,000?
Sheesh, I don't really know. Well, we were at 6,000 over that body of water, and we were
so 7 maybe?
Getting ready to.
7 up to 9. I'm gonna give her a pi rep.
7 to 9, yeah.
Who are we with?
Alright.
Something center.
Center, Norfolk Center maybe. They hand you off to so many different controllers here that, you know, every controller has a sector of airspace. And when you pass from one sector to another, they switch you over.
Center Skylane 67 Yankee with a PIREP.
Skunk 31, turn 15 degrees to the
Smooth
right.
air.
Traffic will get you back on course.
What's that?
Just a minute.
Smooth air.
What is that?
Smooth air.
Oh, smooth air.
Thank you.
Did you hear me? Pretty good ground speed. We're doing fine.
Yeah, we're doing great. 3-hour flight.
Yeah. Center Skylane 3067 Yankee.
Go ahead.
Oh, we've got a scattered layer below us. Base is 7,000, tops 9,000, smooth air.
Okay. Did you need something?
Negative, just wanted to give you the PIREP.
Oh, okay, great, thank you. Skunk, that's good.
And we kind
For when you're finished, right, you're going back to Pat Henry or Ellis?
Was that for us?
I don't think so.
All right, go ahead, proceed direct drone and Norfolk
You know,
approach
the PIREP thing.
reference by traffic.
Feel that?
Give it some.
Weird. All right, it's full on. I'll leave it for a minute.
Yeah.
That was just the engine we felt getting a little bit rough, and
Sabre 11, contact, maintain 1000 and contact Seymour approach on channel 4.
all right, I'm gonna go back.
Skunk 31, thank you. You can turn 20 degrees left and resume back on course.
Feels fine now.
And you're going to the Forest radial now, is that correct?
All right, guys. Well, I think we should probably
Sign off.
sign off on this video. It's longer than we intended to be in the first place. And hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, we'd appreciate you giving it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell so you get notified when we put new videos out. And hope to have a bunch of flying videos coming out for you, one after the other in the near future.